ぬくんで眩しい光木々の渦に生まれる
You know, I've got to say, being on the D2 Brigade has been really awesome. I've got to talk to a lot of really cool people, also some gorgeous babes, let's not deny it. And you know what? I've been getting more hits and things have actually been going pretty well for me. I'm in an all-time high. But, to be honest, there's one thing I still have to do in order to be a member of T2. And that is to review Princess Tutu. Now, I know full well that most people watching this video right now think that I'm going to be supporting everything that Ark has said about Tutu, or what Jo, Prof, or Vixen have said. Well, be prepared to be surprised when I say I didn't like this show. Now, don't confuse me with a lot of other internet reviewers out there who say I don't like something when they actually mean I hated this thing with every fiber of my being and it insults my intelligence or any of that other crap. That is not this type of review. Let me just say that this show will be nowhere near as bad as anything else I've reviewed on here or anything that I will be reviewing in the future. So, enough of my babbling, let's go ahead and get started with this review. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining what Princess Tutu is, because again, I'm a little bit late to this game. But for those of you who have missed it, Princess Tutu is a ballerina-themed magical girl show. You've got Duck, who is literally a duck, whom, with the help of a magical pendant given to her by a long-dead story writer named Drosselmeyer, is able to turn into a normal teenager and attends a ballerina-themed private school in a magical town where the lines of reality and fiction know no bounds. There are 3 other characters Duck interacts with. Mutho, a prince whose heart has been shattered, and he has become an emotionless shell of a human being because of it. Fakir, the dark and brooding knight who guards Mutho. And finally we have Root, who is Mutho's girlfriend, and the daughter of an evil raven who is responsible for Mutho's current state. After a series of events, Duck is given the power of transforming into Princess Tutu, whom, with her masterful dancing skills and a pinch of magic, is able to defeat the monsters who have claimed the pieces of Mutho's shattered heart. First off, my favorite thing about this show is easily the music. While little to none of it is original, they do pull from great ballets of the past like Swan Lake, The Nutcracker, and they even use the Danse Macabre, which is one of my personal favorite classical pieces of musical work. But not only do they draw from already great music, they use the song's themes and emotional purposes perfectly, and it never seems out of place, and it greatly adds to the emotional impact of the scene. As far as main characters go, you could do a lot worse. While Duck can be annoying at times, she is very sympathetic, and you do end up rooting for her in the end. The same goes for Fakir, but sadly the character does go through that stage where he's supposed to be the bad guy, because he does that evil looking thing, but after this character twist, he turns out to be the good guy. I found that really annoying, but honestly, after that little phase of his character, you do warm up to him, and you discover that there's a lot more to his character outside of his bad boy looks. Since these 2 characters do become the main focus of the show after a while, they're characters that you can stand behind following and you never want to see them leave the screen. But easily the best moments of the show are with Princess Tutu herself. It's here where the animation really picks up and shows off some very pretty imagery. The representation of the ballerina performances is captured very well here. If you like ballet in any way, shape, or form, you will like these scenes. Even if you don't, there is still a lot of beauty to be seen. Finally, the last thing I really liked was the ending. And sadly, that's where I have to stop giving out compliments, and I have to go into the negatives. Now, there are 3 things that really hold this show back for me. The show's length, the villains, and the side characters. Let me get the side characters out of the way right now. You have 4 major felons here. The first 2 are Duck's friends, PK and Lily. You know how just about every magical girl/anime with female lead has those insanely pointless friends whose sole purpose is to be the source of lame comic relief gags and convenient info drops of exposition? Like how Kagome had their 3 female friends in the human world, and Inuyasha and Sailor Moon had that one short hair friend who had a thing for one of the villains. That's who PK and Lily are. While they would be a small annoyance in a well-balanced show, this show isn't balanced well. More on this later. And we have to deal with their shit for a good 3/4 of the episode. While PK is your standard butch female friend, Lily is nothing short of a demon offspring. She is constantly setting up these moments where Duck is supposed to fall in love with someone, but instead of getting two people to meet up at a restaurant like a normal person would get two people to meet up, she would do something along the lines of cutting off Duck's toes and mailing them to Mutho in hopes of Mutho taking the lead and sewing them back onto her feet. She is always selfish, rude, crude, and worst of all, she is never satisfied with Duck's romantic life. I have zero tolerance for this character, and seeing her on screen would make me instantly want to hurt small children.
There's a name for you ladies, but it isn't used in high society, outside of a kennel.
Next, we have the characters who just show up for a single episode and leave their psychological damage on your brain while you try to think of a clear reason why they needed to be in this episode. Such a character would be this bullfighter dude. His purpose in life is to be rescued by Princess Tutu, but before he can be worth saving, we have to spend 15 minutes with him, watching him do stupid gags, which is 16 minutes longer than any human should have to put up with this character. And remember, this guy is only in one episode. Every episode, it's a different character with a different quirk. All of them are far more annoying than the last. What's worse is that they all just seem to just blend together in the grand scheme of things, which is a major negative, as I would have liked to have seen the side characters to stand out just as much as the rest of the characters in the show. But they just show up, do their comedy bits, give you a headache, and leave you to wonder what the purpose of it all was. Finally, we have Mr. Cat.
That's Mr. Cat! Mr. Cat? Something wrong? A cat for a teacher?
All right, quiet down. If you don't, rest assured I will have you marry me.
I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. I don't like your jerk-off behavior. And I don't like you. Jerk-off.
Now, normally, I love cats. Cats are cute, they're fluffy, and they keep to themselves. What's not to love? But Mr. Cat makes me hate everything that is feline. So you don't like pussy, is that what you're saying? Not now, Steve. Actually, aside from our standard sex joke, we wanted to be the ones to talk about this character. What? Why? 'Cause we know him in person. You're gonna have to explain that one to me. He was on a show we were working with a while back, and we still have the tapes. I'll just pop it in. I don't think anyone wants to see anything that you two have filmed. Well, this is when we were helping those guys onto the How to Catch a Predator show. Yeah, this is the tape where we got Mr. Cat to confess that he is a pedophile who forces children into acts of bestiality. Okay, that's taking it a bit too far. In all seriousness, Mr. Cat is possibly the most annoying character I have ever come across. And yes, I think he's more annoying than that damn pixie thing in Garzy's wing. Not only is his marriage joke creepy on many different levels, but is unbelievably annoying. I didn't mind the joke the first time I heard it, but he says it every single time he is on screen. Having to put up with the same lame-ass joke during every single episode is something I wouldn't even force my worst enemy to watch. Every time this joke was said, it felt like the show was screaming, "Look, I'm being funny! Laugh at me, damn you!" My mind would instantly snap the moment he came on screen. It would kill any positive feeling I had about the show at that moment, and even after he would leave, I would have this nasty taste in my mouth until the show was over. So if there's any one thing that makes me never to watch this show again as long as I live, it is because of this asshole. I hate Mr. Cat, and he is a character that needs to be burned in fire. But let's draw our attention away from the side characters and focus on a bigger problem, namely the villains, or more precisely, Princess Crehy. I'm gonna say this flat out, as a villain, Crehy left no impact on me. Her actions always seem to be overshadowed by something far more evil than herself, and there were times where I wondered why she was even considered to be a villain at all. Even at the beginning, she does very little to stop Princess Tutu from returning Mutho's heart shards. In fact, a lot of the situations in the show just kinda happen without anyone's help. As it stands, even from the start of the show, Crehy comes across as a victim instead of a villain. While this is written into the show, she still does nothing as a villain for the first half of the show. Sure, she kidnapped Mutho that one time, but at this point in the show, who hasn't held him hostage at one point? Then, in the second act of the show, she almost disappears completely when Mutho turns evil, which, by the way, I thought was kind of a cliche thing to do, having your good character become the villain. To name a few other characters like this from the very top of my head would be Rose from Salty Ray, Gundam 00's Louise, and just about every other character in Code Geass. But getting back to Kurehi, all in all, she did nothing for me as a character when I was supposed to care about her, which makes me more disappointed than anything else. Even after the reveal of her backstory, as sad as it was given far too late into the show, and by that I mean episode 24 out of 26, and I couldn't force myself to change my opinion about her. Another group of villains I just straight up don't get are these guys who show up in the second half of the show. Their whole purpose in this realm of existence is to make sure that the descendants of Drosselmeyer never write stories again. They do this by going around and cutting people's hands off. These dudes just bother me. They show up within the last 5 or so episodes of the show, and they become this very random obstacle for the heroes to overcome, as if they felt that the villains they already had in the show weren't enough of a threat already. So they add these clowns to raise the stakes, and honestly, they were pretty easily taken down in the grand scheme of things. I also just have a bunch of other questions about these guys, like, how the hell do they gather all the information about who Drosselmeyer's descendants are? Do they just stalk the members of the family tree and just randomly cut off their hands? Why wait to commit this act when the subject of their focus is a teenager? Is cutting the hands off of babies like morally wrong in their group or something? Also, if this group has been successful as they said they have been, you'd think that there would be 1 or 2 members of the community running around without any hands. But yeah, these guys just seemed a bit weird. I get why they're a threat, and I get why they're there, but they just don't feel as fleshed out as they should be. Above all else, what bothered me the most about the show was the episode formula. Let me explain. Every episode in Princess Tutu can be broken down into the setup, comic relief, finding the source of the episode's problem, dealing with the problem, and the conclusion. While this is the basic setup for most shows, the problem is that this pattern is insanely uneven. The part of the show that takes up the most screen time is sadly the comic relief sections. While having your annoying side characters take up a small chunk of screen time for farting around is fine, the key is never having them overstay their welcome. With Tutu, they do exactly that. Although to be fair, when they aren't making fools of themselves or making any headway with the plot, they start to whine with self-doubt and they turn into your basic woe is me monologues. I don't mind having 1 or 2, and I'm not saying that these characters don't deserve to whine, but these moments happen far too often, especially with Princess Kurehi. Since we spend so much time focusing on the moments of comic relief and the inner monologues, less focus is given to the episode's problem at hand, and most of the time, the best part of the show. The moments with Princess Tutu don't happen as often as they should. It's like ordering a 3-course meal where the appetizers are bland, the steak is overcooked, but you get your favorite sundae for dessert. But the thing is, the entire dining experience would be chalked up as a bad night out, because even though you ended the meal on a high note, you still had to eat and pay for the awful starter and the entree. Now, aside from just the setup of every episode, another factor that holds the show back for me is its length. This is going to sound a bit silly, but I thought 26 episodes was way too long for this show. In fact, you can easily see a divide between episode 13 and 14. Not because this was the transition between Season 1 and Season 2, but because when episode 14 hit, that's when I started to nitpick the hell out of this show. And while I would normally just shrug off nitpicking for the sake of enjoying a show, with Tutu, I had a very hard time ignoring it. Now, I know I shouldn't be letting things like this bug me, but when I've got Mr. Cat screaming about marriage 1 second, then I've got a sappy pity me speech going on the next, and then when the story is supposed to be at its absolute best, it starts to show signs of weakness. It becomes a straw that breaks my patience, and it's when I want this show to end, and being brutally honest, by the end of Disc 5, I was just about ready to give up on the series altogether. But I know it would have been foolish to drop a show when all you have left is one blasted disc, so I went ahead and finished the series for the sake of finishing it, and I have to say I can't really argue about the ending. While I can't say I wasn't expecting things to turn out alright, I will say I was happy to see that it was given an ending that wasn't your traditional everything turns out alright for the hero. And it's something about the show that I respect. So that more or less are my thoughts on Princess Tutu. How does it stand? Well, while I personally don't like it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that you do. This isn't a horrifically horrible anime. There are plenty of things to like about this show. Just, for me, a lot of the things worth liking about the show are buried far too deep below the piles of shortcomings, and I have a hard time forgiving the show than most other people. Now, do I think that this is a series you need to go out and spend your money on? No, I wouldn't go that far. And between you, me, and the internet, I will never be watching the show again. Oh, and one last thing. I have to honestly admit, I don't really know why everyone on D2 is saying that this show will raise your manliness, because, as we all know, the show that increases your manhood is My Little Snow Fairy Sugar. This is CJ Hitchcock, signing out.
Okay, so, I'm really glad that everybody could make it to this kind of emergency meeting of sorts on such a short notice.
Ark, I'm really busy. What is this all about?
I'd say it was balls. Of course, he would have liked the show if he had any.
Prof, chill pills. Take them.
I have a better solution, and it involves me and the rest of this fifth of scotch.
Wait. Whose balls are we talking about?
You haven't seen his Tutu review yet, have you, Vix?
Yeah, I saw it. So he has a different opinion than us. Big deal. We're reviewers. We're not going to agree on everything, you know?
You see, Vix, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I get what you're trying to do here, but this is Tutu. It's different.
He didn't say he hated it.
Yes, he did.
We're gonna have to drop Prof from this call if he doesn't want to sober up.
You mess with Tutu, I mess with you.
Taking it pretty hard, aren't you, boy?
He's being a baby, that's what he's doing.
Okay, well, we don't really want to let this go without any sort of punishment. So, do we have any suggestions? I was thinking along the lines of, like, a letter bomb or nuke.
No. That's just stupid. You guys are taking it way too far.
I think you're forgetting that Hitch was the one who gave you Sailor Moon and 7 balls.
This is true, but I don't see why we should do that. I mean... Oh, I like that idea. You know, guys, don't worry about it. We'll take care of things from here.